Today is July 25th, 2015. Joining us on the porch are local writers George DeMass and Jim Farfaglia, business owner Bill Reilly, and musicians Bold Folly.
For family, what are you waiting for? Where friendships run deeper. Come join us on the porch. So glad you're on the porch.
That's right, kids. You're here for another exciting episode of On the Porch Radio Hour. But what's even more exciting about this episode, because every episode is really exciting, but this episode is super exciting because we are at the Oswego Farmers Market. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. It's okay to clap. It's okay to clap. Just because you're in public, if everybody's doing it, it's okay. Don't listen to your mom. If everybody's clapping, you can clap and hoot and holler and cheer. So we have some really incredible guests. I know for those of you that were here, for those of you that are listening now, there are incredible guests here. We're doing all sorts of stuff with literacy, so it's really cool to be standing out in public on a stage that says read, which is a ton of fun. And I want to tell you that I first met our musicians at a really interesting conference. For those of you that don't know, I'm married to another woman. That was what I was going to say. Since my wife's not here, don't tell her I said that, because then she'll think I'm married to another woman. No, I'm married to a woman that's part of the show. She's not here yet, but she will be. Her last name's Holsopple. And growing up with a name like Holsopple is really tough because nobody ever knows how to pronounce it correctly. And so I was supporting her, and we went to a conference for people with really difficult names to announce, anonymous meetings. And so we went, and we were hanging out, and I met these really cool dudes, Ingo and Tim. Ingo and Tim are from the U.S., but it doesn't sound, well, actually, Ingo's not. But we'll talk about that later. But Ingo Hutzenlaub and Tim Stroyevsky are here, and they go by the band name Bold Folly, but it's way more fun to say their last name. And because I went to this conference, I can say their last names, and it's okay. Most people can't. But anyway, we were hanging out, and we were sitting in the lobby of the hotel, and all of these people were standing around, and there was a lot of people named Tim. And so in order to try to keep them straight, we were all trying to say their last names, but nobody could say their last names, and we were all working really hard because we were all there to support each other because they all had really difficult last names. And so when people came up to me, they thought I was part of the conference, and they're like, "Hey, Matthew, what's your last name?" And I would say, "Wood." You know, and then they'd laugh and be like, "Yeah, I do that too. I always shorten my last name." I was like, "No, really, my last name's Wood." And so I kind of got shunned, and then I had to go to another conference where people were meeting because they always got ignored, and I was getting ignored so bad at this conference because I had a normal last name. But anyway, we're at the Oswego Farmers Market, and we're surrounded by really awesome people with incredibly smiling faces, and I love them. And we have a special guest, even though she won't be on the stage, and we won't be talking to her directly. There's a young woman in the crowd named Elizabeth who came to watch the show. Thanks for being here, Elizabeth. She's a very special young lady, and she wanted to make sure that she got a front row seat, so she got here early, and then she helped us sound check. And we would not sound nearly as good as we do if Elizabeth hadn't been here. And she didn't know that she was coming to help us sound check, but she wore a shirt that says "Turn Up the Volume." How appropriate and how perfect can it be that we have somebody in the crowd that just, she knew, you knew that you were coming to work, and just constantly, and your generation is all about turn up the volume. So does it sound good, Elizabeth? And she'd give us the thumbs up, and then we realized that she was telling us to turn it up, and that it wasn't a thumbs up like that's good, but it was like a turn up the volume. So we're all set now though, right? And you can hear us and we're good? Cool. So we have a really great show for you, and as you're hanging out, go get some local food. It's really good stuff. And one last thing, not that you need to know this, but I had a really difficult childhood because I was always dreaming. I had really scary dreams about people in white vans. and I'm surrounded by white vans at the farmer's market, and it's very therapeutic. So I want to thank everybody for driving their white vans and being here, because I really appreciate that. They make awesome popcorn right next door out of a white van, and then there's some folks right across the way here that are selling delicious vegetables, and they have T-shirts with their farm name. It's very soothing, and I'm really glad that they're here. And I'm really glad everybody's here. And we'll get more to that later. But for now, Bold Folly, you're on the porch.
Thanks, Matthew. Don't be afraid of that man leather jacket. It's all just a scam. He's a confidence man. Eager to kiss you, talks to your sister, still never would think of forcing a hand. No, he never thinks to force a hand. Mission is received and got you believe in your heart where it has not let you down. So let us give thanks to the almighty pharmacy, lifting you up, keeping your pressure down. Or they'll keep you up, keep your pressure down. 2, 4, 6, and I'm headed for the door. And I can't stand the taste of this well whiskey anymore. We just drive home alone. Helplessly anxious, speaks to the waitress. No, I don't believe I'll have another room. It's full of wet cement, stomachs in the basement, no remedy to be found. No remedy to be found. 2, 4, 6, and I'm headed for the door.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, so I want you to help me welcome Carri Waloven to the stage. She is with the Literacy Coalition. Yeah. And I'm not sure if she made this sign, but she's definitely responsible for getting it on the stage. I want a book that big. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to work with Bill on getting a book that big to the River's End. And then I'll read it for story hour from outside. Well, we'll have to read it through the window. Yeah, that would be awesome. So Carri only wants to talk for 30 seconds. I'm trying to see how long I can keep her on the stage. That's why I keep talking.
Well, I can stand here, but not talk.
Yeah. She looks good. That's why she's on the radio. I have to throw that out every once in a while. But anyway, Carri, tell us about all the great stuff you're doing.
The Literacy Coalition of Oswego County is a group of community members that are educators, business people, community agencies that get together and basically are advocating for all of the resources that we have within our county for people to not only to be literate for reading, but also workforce literacy, work placement literacy. So we basically are advocates for our community. So we try to get out to the public so that we can let people be aware of what our community, within our own little community, our county, has to support literacy. We are at not only the farmers market, but we have different events throughout the year, and we support different things. We raise money for agencies as well, and we are always looking for either to be a part of the coalition or to be a donor or to be an advocate. And if you're interested in more, learning more about the coalition, on the other side of the stage here, we have a table with our brochure and with our website, and has a great video on there to explain more about what we do as a coalition. And we also have, on the other side of the stage, free books. That's what we're here for, to get books out to your families so that you can keep reading. Knowledge is power. So through reading, that is really what we strive for, to be literate.
Thank you. Thanks for all the work you're doing, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So we're going to work on getting Carri back on the show, too, so we can interview her and get a lot more information. But I think what she just did was great. So it might be a short interview because she's got that down pretty well. With a description of easy to grow in any kind of soil, any kind of climate, easy to store and preserve, and with great health benefits and medicinal uses, it's no wonder that onions are today's sponsor for On the Porch Radio Hour. It is believed that onions have been planted and cultivated for over 5,000 years. Not only did Egyptians eat onions, but they offered them to the gods and buried their pharaohs with onions. And out of all the plants that they painted pictures of in their pyramids and on their walls and in their tombs, Egyptians painted the onion, and it was the only plant or vegetable that they painted in gold. So how many times have we heard or made reference to the layers of onions? But it's not just its circle-in-circle structure that makes the onion layered. No. The onion has a rich history, great health benefits, and incredible taste, and is loved the world over. So how about those layers? So the next time you cut into an onion, go ahead and cry. Those tears of joy are a celebration of an incredible food that stood the test of time. Not only are we proud to have onions as our sponsor, but we are proud that onions play such a huge role in Oswego County. So as you're walking around the farmers market today, ladies and gentlemen, say thank you to onions. For me. Onions, ladies and gentlemen. So I think it's safe for me to say that becoming a regular on the Porch Radio Hour, our guest, Jim Farfaglia, has kind of become a staple, another brick in the wall, if you will, on the Porch Radio Hour. Even though our porch is made out of not bricks, it's going to be soon, and they're all going to be called Jim Farfaglia. But thanks for being on the show, Jim.
Thanks for having me back, Matthew.
You bet. Jim Farfaglia is here to talk about a book that he wrote all about the history of muck farms in Oswego County. which is no coincidence that we're sponsored by onions, by the way. But he's also written in his book about the farmers market too, right?
Yeah.
And how it's connected. So how is that connected anyway?
Yeah, great story. And when Greg Mills called up and said they were going to do this, I got real excited to. Anytime I get a chance to talk about the muck farms of Oswego County, I just get real excited. And one of the things that was real fun about writing the book was I met the muck farmer who started the Oswego Farmers Market. This man's name was John Coloca. And John had a muck farm on County Route 7 in the town of Hannibal. And John and his wife, Mary Helen, had decided to buy a retail store right downtown in Oswego. In fact, the store was right where Porch City is now. That building used to be called Tots and Teens. Any Oswegonians or Fultonians remember Tots and Teens? And that was owned by the Coloca family. John was a muck farmer. And when they bought the store, there was a downtown retailers organization. And they went to the first meeting, and all the retailers were talking about how can we get more people to come downtown to shop at our stores and bring business downtown Oswego. And John Coloca, first week at the meeting, didn't know anybody, kind of raised his hand and he said, let's have a farmer's market. And of course, the only farmer's market that people knew about, this was back in the early 1970s, was the Syracuse Regional Market or the Rochester Market. So they were trying to picture that in Oswego. But John kind of talked them through it, worked through it. The first night they had it, they had 7 muck farmers pull up their white vans or trucks. 7 muck farmers. Joyce Ferlito was one of those muck farmers, if you know the Ferlito farm family. And I interviewed Joyce. Joyce said within a half hour, everything they brought to sell was purchased. People were just mad for the idea to buy fresh produce in downtown Oswego. And that was the start of this farmers market. And now look at what it's turned into.
This is awesome.
And also Offspring's farmers markets in Fulton, Mexico, Parrish, all over Oswego County. But it all started with that muck farmer, John Coloca.
That's a really great story, Jim. Thanks for sharing that. So how many years did you say it's been?
Well, 1971 was the first year, so
holy
we're
cow!
talking
So 44 years.
44 years.
Wow, 44 years. So everybody that's sitting in the street here, at the farmers market, is 44 years. People have been doing this. I don't know if people have been on the stage for 44 years, but there have been farmers coming and people have been buying their stuff, and I think that's a really awesome tradition. If muck farmers were part of getting the farmers market started and getting people here, let's take a step back and talk about how did muck farms get started and how did they start doing that in Oswego County?
Right. So in the research for the book, I found out that the very first muck farm in Oswego County was in Scriba, farmer in Scriba. 1853 was the first known muck farm, but really that was quite earlier than most muck farms started in the early 1900s. And the story goes that what muck land is swamp land that is drained, and the bigger vegetation is pulled out of there, the trees and the shrubs, and this rich soil that has been collecting in these swamps for literally centuries makes this rich organic material very unique to the world, really, right here in this Oswego area. Anyway, once those the swamplands were drained and they started producing the muck farms, people were buying large pieces of this muck land but couldn't farm it all. This was back in the early 1900s. There was no big machinery. So they started bringing immigrants who had just come primarily from Italy, some from Holland, some from England area, and did something called sharecropping, which is where the owner of the farm gave them a couple of acres of land, and the sharecroppers would farm that, plant the seed, weed the vegetables, and then pick the produce. They'd sell it, and then they'd split the profits. So the owner would get half the money, the sharecropper who did all the work would get half the money. And some of those sharecroppers, year after year, would take a few of the pennies, the dollars that they'd earned, and put it away until they had enough money to buy their own mucks. And that's how most of the muck farms that were in the 40s and 50s started.
Man, what a neat story. And so then those families, of course, stay in the area and then continue to farm. And so a lot of these farms and the names that you're talking about are still here, and they're still farming.
Right. And that in its heyday, there were about 150 muck farm families. Today in Oswego County, there are 9.
Wow.
But the interesting thing is those 9 families own about the same amount of muck land as those 150 families.
Holy
As they
cow.
got machinery and they got more mechanicalized, they were able to buy up more property. So most of the muck farmers today own 2, 3, 4, 500 acres of farms.
Holy cow. That's incredible. That's a lot of acreage and a lot of onions. That's really neat.
And it was great. Onions is the main muck produce today.
Right.
It used to be iceberg lettuce. If anybody from the old days remembers the great iceberg lettuce that came right from here, that's kind of died out. But onions are the main muck product. So I was really great to see that it was a sponsor today.
Yeah. That's right. Thanks, Jim. Yeah. So when you're talking about acreage that size, even if when muck farms didn't start, or not, even when muck farms started, they weren't as big as they are now, but they were still pretty good size. And so was it the family that was doing most of the work, or how did that work? Did they hire workers, or?
So there would be someone to own the property, maybe 50, 60 acres of muck, and then 4 or 5 acres would be worked by a family, a muck farm. Most of those families were immigrants. And, how I got interested in this topic is my 2 uncles were muck farmers in the Fulton area. So their parents immigrated from Italy and heard great stories. I was able to interview. In fact, if you're touring the market here today, toward the very end of this side, go to the Caltabiano truck. The Caltabiano, Anthony Caltabiano's there. His mother, Lena, immigrated. Quick story about Lena. Lena's father came to America before the rest of the family, which often happened when people immigrated. The father would come first to make sure that it was going to be a good place for their family to come. And when he went back to Italy to give away his oldest daughter in marriage, Lena was conceived. The father came back to the United States, and 16 years later, Lena came on that boat to meet her father.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that an amazing story? So she had a picture of him in her hand, came off the boat at Ellis Island, looking for her father in the crowd, and that was how she met her father at 16 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So many of those people farmed back in what they called the old country, and that's what they knew how to do. So they came here, they became sharecroppers. Morris Sorbello, if you know that name, Morris Sorbello, probably one of the biggest muck farmers in Oswego County, over 800 acres of farmland. His father was a sharecropper, so he started out with 2 or 3 acres and worked his way up from there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thanks.
And people can find your book, right, at the Rivers End Bookstore.
Thank you.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
mentioning that. Yes. One of the nicest places in Oswego is the Rivers End Bookstore. As a local author, always welcoming to us, encouraging to us. We're lucky to have them here.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So you can find Jim's book about muck farms, and tell us the title of that one more time, Jim.
It's called Of the Earth,
Mm-hmm.
Stories from Oswego County's Muck Farms.
Awesome. You can find that book and several other Jim Farfaglia books at the Rivers End Bookstore, and he has another one coming up soon about the Blizzard of 66, too. Some history about the Blizzard of 66. So great stuff happening from great local folks. So thanks so much, Jim, for being here.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, absolutely. So not only are we lucky enough to have one local author on the show today, but we have a second. And so I want to welcome George DeMass to the stage. Thanks so much for being here, George.
Thank you very much.
So, George, you have, how many books do you have? Is this your first book?
This is my first book.
This is your first
As
book.
part of the Images of America series, Town of Oswego.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you've written a book about the town of Oswego. Is it the history of the town itself?
It's a history of the town of Oswego in over 200 pictures.
Oh, nice.
The town of Oswego is that beautiful area west of the city. It was founded in 1818 before the city was even incorporated. And a lot of people don't know this. Most of SUNY Oswego is in the town of Oswego, not the city.
Oh, no kidding.
That's right.
Does the city then go through the campus? I mean, the
It goes
line?
up to the campus, yes.
Okay.
Part of it's in the city, but a good share of it's in the town of Oswego. The town of Oswego consists of 3 hamlets: Fruit Valley, Oswego Center, where the town hall is, and Southwest Oswego.
Southwest Oswego.
Many of the pictures in this book were taken between 1898 and 1900 by a man by the name of Lyman Tripp Place, who as a young man went by horse and his camera and his tripod and went down the California Road, Route 20, and the old Health Camp Road, which is Westlake Road, and asked the families to come out, and he would take their picture. That was back in 1898, 1900.
Holy cow. So who's the family on the cover of the book then?
This is not a family. This is
okay.
This is the mission band of the young people at the Southwest Oswego Baptist Church back in 1898. That's the oldest church and the oldest church building in the town.
Oh my gosh.
We've had 2 quite famous people from the town of Oswego. One was David Hall McConnell. He was the founder of Avon Products Incorporated. And he was born in the town of Oswego on what is now known as the Sabin Road. And then he lived his boyhood and his young man on Westlake Road. The other famous personage is Dr. Mary Edwards Walker. She is the only woman to date to receive the Medal of Honor for her services in the Civil War. And she was also great for women's suffrage. She was born on Bunker Hill Road on the hill called Bunker Hill. Her parents moved from near Boston, Massachusetts, and her father, Alva Walker, named the hill Bunker Hill because he hoped that it would be a place of great battles for education and for social justice.
I love it.
So a chapter here is devoted to Dr. Mary Walker with some pictures that have never been published before. And one of them is she's lying on a Victorian sofa pretending to be asleep. Her medal is there on her coat, and she's written across, "Dreaming of justice for all."
Oh, that's great. So how did you get a hold of all these pictures then?
Well, I started collecting them personally back when I was in high school. And
Okay.
I'm the Oswego Town historian. And in fact, I was the Oswego Town historian 52 years ago. I was supposed to be the youngest appointed official in New York State. And when I retired 7 years ago and moved back to my home, the supervisor appointed me town historian again.
Oh, that's really great. Good for you. So you've been interested in this kind of stuff since you were young.
Yes.
And did you just meet families that had these photos, or
I met the families even back when I was in high school that had photos, and usually they were just so glad that someone was interested in photos, they gave me the photos.
Oh my gosh.
And they're in our archives now in Oswego Town.
Oh, that's incredible. That's really great. So, what would be another story that you found really interesting, or that was really fun to get into, or maybe you solved a mystery or something in the book? What?
Well, the Oswego Town Rural Cemetery is one of the oldest cemeteries, founded in 1820. That's older than our Riverside Cemetery here. And within an acre of land, not only lies Dr. Mary Walker as a Medal of Honor recipient, but also another Medal of Honor recipient, James Lee, from the Civil War.
No
So
kidding.
it's very, very interesting that way.
That's really great.
Yeah.
And how big is the town of Oswego? Like, how many acres or miles?
You
or
know,
how does
I
it-
forget how many square miles. We have a
That's
little
all right.
population of about 7,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. And so a lot of history out of
A lot of history.
out of a small town.
Yes.
That's really cool. How long did it take you to write the book?
About 9 months.
Okay.
The Images of America, or Arcadia Publishing, is a great publisher to work with,
Mhm.
and I really enjoyed that.
Nice. So after gathering all of these stories over the course of, 50-something years,
Yes.
you decided to write a book. So my first response when you said it took me 9 months, I thought, wow, man, you really burned through that, but you didn't. I mean, it took
it took me 50 years.
It took you 50 years, right, to get all the information. Yeah.
So,
That's really,
yes.
that's dedication. That's
Yeah,
really
thank
nice. Do you, do you do other events, or do you do things in the town of Oswego to talk about the history or give tours or anything like that?
We have a monthly Oswego Town Historical Society meeting.
Okay.
And just about 3 years ago now, the town, through public contributions, put up an over life-size bronze statue of Dr. Murray Walker in front of the town hall.
Yes.
Some of the money came from the Oswego school children, the consolidated district, as well as the school children of Minetto, because Dr. Mary taught in Minetto before she went to medical school.
That's right.
In Syracuse.
That's right. Wow. So when you're collaborating and doing things with the town of Oswego, where can we find information about that stuff, and where can we find information about your book?
Okay, you can go to our website for the Oswego Town Historical Society, and the book is on sale at the greatest bookstore around here, and that's Rivers End Bookstore.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the Rivers End has some really incredible local authors.
Yeah.
So what are you working on now?
Well, not really working on a book yet, but I'm president of put a plug in for Safe Haven Holocaust Museum across the river. I'm president of the board of that, and that's very, very exciting. And we're beginning expansion of the museum there.
Yes, and that's also really exciting. And one thing that's exciting for me is that we've now been able to make a connection. And so I'm going to say this on the air, but I would like to talk to you at some point, so maybe we can have you back on the show to talk about the
Glad
museum.
to. Yes.
That would be really great. Talk about those stuff you're doing there.
Just the last couple days, 2 of the refugees, there's less than 100 left now of the about 1,000 that were there. 2 of the refugees called me and just wanted to again say what a great place Oswego was. It took them in when they had nothing and when they were nothing.
That's great. And thanks for coming back to Oswego yourself and being part of it, and thanks for being on the show too.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. George DeMass with 50 years of research in a book. You have to check that out. I'm a big fan of pictures, and that's exciting. I love old pictures and history like that. So thanks, George. You're listening to On the Porch Radio Hour. We'll be back in just a minute.
What's happening in Central New York is brought to us by iHeart Oswego. The Oswego Bookmobile visits parks, schools, and other sites around the city throughout the summer. Each child who visits may choose a book to take home with them. Visit OswegoBookmobile.com for times and locations. The Oswego Opera Theater hosts Some Enchanted Evening with the songs of Rodgers and Hammerstein on Friday, July 31st at the American Foundry. Call 315-529-3286 for more information. Theater du Jour presents Bingo, the winning musical, at the Ice House in Mexico on August 20th and at the Oswego Tea Company on August 21st. Visit dujourcny.com for more information. The Port City Co-op hosts an outdoor flea market at West Bridge and 2nd Streets in Oswego on the 1st and 3rd Sundays of each month from 12 to 5 p.m. Call 315-529-5177 for more information. The CNY Arts Center's production of Much Ado About Nothing opens on August 7th and runs through August 16th. The Arts Center also hosts a Writers Cafe the last Sunday of each month, with the next session July 26th at 6 p.m. The Arts Center also offers adult painting classes and writing classes, and is currently hosting an Artie Camp for children during July and August. Artie Camp offers a variety of classes in the visual and performing arts for school-aged children. Visit cnyartscenter.com for more information. Oswego County Farmers Markets happen just about every day of the week. In Central Square, visit Crossroads Park Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. until dark. New Haven Farmers Market is held at the Town Hall on Mondays from 4 until 7. Lacona's Farmers Market is at the corner of Maple Avenue and Harwood Drive on Thursdays from 4 until 7. The Oswego's Farmers Market is also on Thursdays from 4:30 until 8:30 and is held on West 1st Street between Bridge and Oneida Streets. Pulaski hosts their market in South Park on Fridays from 4 until 8. The Canal View parking lot in Fulton is the home of the Fulton Farmers Market on Saturdays from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. And Parrish also hosts a market on Saturdays from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. at the corner of Route 69 and Route 69A. The Red Room sessions at Wooden Apple Farmstead are a time for songwriters, musicians, and anyone else who wants to build their musical skill and knowledge to get together. We share songs we are working on, bounce musical ideas off each other, and we usually have time to just play a little music. This is a supportive environment where all levels of songwriting and musical experience are welcome. The next session is July 26th at 6 p.m. Wooden Apple Farmstead also hosts the 3rd Annual Music and Arts Festival on July 29th and 30th. The festival will include a Frisbee golf tournament on Saturday, a songwriters contest on Saturday evening, and a full day of live music on Sunday. Art will be for sale throughout the weekend. For more information about the event, or to find out how to become a sponsor, contestant, performer, or vendor, visit Wooden Apple Farmstead on Facebook, or call 315-591-0711.
Hey, I need everybody to look for a second because we found Waldo. And yeah, he's on the stage. So taking Waldo's place today, because Waldo's a busy guy, he's in a lot of places at once, we have Bill standing in, Bill Reilly from the Rivers End Bookstore. Everybody's been talking your praises, so I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here too, Matthew.
Yeah. You're doing a ton for people locally, and you're doing a lot for, you're just doing a lot for a lot of places and a lot of things. But specifically, first, you're working with the Literacy Coalition as well, right?
Absolutely. We love the Literacy Coalition, and in addition to selling books, which supports that, we've been partnering with the YMCA for the last 15 years and have a little race that we conduct. It's going to be this Saturday. And my mother came up with the tagline, and it's called Fit and Literate.
Nice.
And it's the kids' fun run Saturday morning at 8 a.m. So there's still time to register, and there's still T-shirts available.
Awesome. Those are nice shirts, too.
Yeah.
I like those.
Oh, I have to tell you, Zinc shirts
Yes.
designed these for us. We love Zinc.
Yes. Thank you, because that's another local business doing really cool things. And we had Glenn on our show a while back, and we should probably do that again because he's doing a lot of stuff. He's involved in a lot of things, just like you guys are. So I want to thank your mom too, because that's a really cool lingo. I like that.
Yeah, and Mom is like 92 years old now.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
No, it was probably easy for her to come up with that then. She's been around. She knows what's up. So, speaking of going around, so you're going around as Waldo. Every time I've seen you over the last month or so, you've had the same shirt and hat on.
I do wash it.
Oh, okay. I was curious. I wasn't sure. Every time I show up at the store, like, wow, there's Bill. I won't be able to find you now because once this promotion's over, you'll be wearing a different shirt.
Well, Waldo's been visiting Oswego for the entire month of July. Started July 1st. We'll have a big celebration on the 31st at the bookstore. Yeah. But if you haven't joined in, we have passports available at the store. The whole idea behind finding Waldo in Oswego is to support our local business.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we'd love to have anyone who's interested, young or old, join in the search for Waldo.
That's right. And so I take my passport, and there are how many stores again?
25 independently owned businesses in downtown Oswego.
That's fantastic. So there's 25 businesses, all locally owned and independently owned right here in Oswego. And you take your passport, and say I walk into the Rivers End bookstore. Now I'm going to walk around, and I'm going to look for a little cardboard, right? Like
6-inch high cardboard Waldo.
All right.
And Waldo, that diminutive Waldo, is hiding in all 25 businesses.
That's fun.
Yeah.
It's been a really cool adventure for us too. We've taken our kids and we've walked around when we come in Oswego and we pop into all these shops, and it's really neat to walk around and look and interact with the staff, and it's pretty cool. And then the kids get a stamp.
They
right?
do. They get a little stamp. after they found Waldo in 10 stores, they have been the first 100, and we've already passed the first 100. But they received a little button of an I Found Waldo button and a coupon for $1 off a Waldo book. But unfortunately, we've passed that. But if you find Waldo in 20 or more stores, Matthew, you're entered into the grand prize drawing, which will take place on Friday, July 31st at the bookstore. And that's a 7-volume set of Waldo books.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Oh, that's really cool.
And all of the participating businesses are also supplying all kinds of goodies to be given away at the party on the 31st.
Yeah, that's a party you don't want to miss. That's going to be a ton of fun. And Waldo will be there too, yeah?
Waldo's going to be there. Waldo is going to be running in the Kids Fun Run on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Waldo was in Paddle Fest.
Oh, my gosh.
Waldo was in the 4th of July parade with the Bookmobile. And I don't know, Waldo has been having too much fun. Waldo's been out at Rice Creek. Waldo has been dying to be on the porch.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you so much.
The porch has been...
Yeah.
I'm glad we finally found you. We've been searching everywhere to get Waldo so we could drag him onto the porch. So this is really cool. So after the 31st, I'm guessing we'll be able to find Waldo taking a nap on a couch somewhere.
Waldo's off to another state, another city. He's
just
going to
goes
be
on.
he's a busy guy.
Well done. Well done, Waldo. So with all of this stuff, you're also doing other things at the store. You have local authors that come in and talk about their books. You have authors that aren't local come in and talk about their books too, right?
And we love supporting the arts in all forms.
Yes.
I know that you and Gina have performed in the store many times, and we
sure have.
truly appreciate that, as have a number of other artists. So we'll do little previews for performances by the Oswego players in the store. That's kind of fun. You know, both George and Jim, who were on the show earlier, are two of our greatest local authors, but I have to tell you that Jim has actually reached out to a national, huge, big-name author and had this author write the foreword to his new book that you alluded to earlier. So this fall, Al Roker has written the foreword to Jim's new book, and we are so excited that we'll be launching Jim's book at the bookstore. Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah, Jim Farfaglia. They're going to be naming a sandwich after you at the sub shop soon.
Yeah.
Won't have anything but chicken in it.
Yeah, so, and guess what?
What?
We're going to get a sub named after you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sub shop, absolutely.
Yeah, there's got to be something wood smoked in there.
So Al Roker's coming to town.
Is he real?
He's got a brand new book coming out. He's coming to town on September 25th.
Oh my gosh. This is good
Lots
stuff.
of details to follow.
Yeah.
And Jim's pretty excited because he's going to get to meet him face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have to hang out with Jim that day. Didn't we have something we had to do? You needed me to like carry your book bag or something? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Bill, thanks for everything that you and the Rivers End are doing. Thanks for supporting all of the arts. And, you know, I think one thing that's overlooked, we were talking about this earlier, but writing is an art, and I think that gets missed a lot. You know, so it's a store that's just full of art. We have a town, we have a county, we have, you know, an area that's just full of artists, and the Rivers End is like a magnet, and I'm really glad that that's happening. So thank you so much.
Matthew, thank you. It was a pleasure being on your show.
Always, and we'll talk again.
I look forward to it.
Awesome. All right, so Bold Folly, Ingo Hutzenlaub, and Tim Strojewski,
Nice job, Mike.
thanks, man, are in from their few-hour drive. Let's hear a little bit about when you guys started playing together.
Well, we've known each other for a few years. We were both in the Fredonia music community, kind of playing in different bands and stuff. we never really played together until about 2 years ago. I joined a band that Tim was in called Honey Spine,
Okay.
and we toured most of last year together. So
Honey Spine came down from New York to tour Nashville, and we poached Dingo from his job. Said, you got to play bass for us, or we're never going to leave.
Nice. So you guys got to go play in Nashville a little bit?
Yeah, it was the project before this one. We were in a bluegrass band.
Right
yeah,
on.
we were kind of all over the East Coast, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, down to Florida. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you decided that, for whatever reason, it was time for the two of you to do a thing separate from Honey Spine, huh?
Well, originally I had really high aspirations to be a waiter in Florida.
Okay.
And so I wanted to do that for 6 months, and after a brief stint in the food service industry, we decided that we wanted to get the band back together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. It's nice for everybody to take like a 6-month hiatus and do something they want to do, you know?
Yeah.
So good for you. Now, what were you serving?
Seafood, hamburgers, cheeseburgers, French fries, the odd chicken finger, the cheeky chicken finger here and there.
Okay.
Throw that out there every
Yeah.
once in a while.
All right.
I was working at a German restaurant, so pretty much all the German food you could imagine, and the
course.
beers and everything. So
Nice.
good time.
And what a great segue for me to ask you a little bit about your personal history, Ingo. So, our mutual friend Shane was telling me that were you born in Germany? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, my family moved to the States in '95, July of '95. So
Okay.
I've been here for about 20 years now. So
Nice.
yeah,
Cool. Have you? Do you go back to visit, see family?
I haven't been since 2009, but hopefully next year I'll get to go again. So
Okay.
it's just a matter of getting it scheduled in. We might actually both be going, and then
Yes.
book some gigs.
Well, I was just gonna say you should at least take your guitar, play your guitar, and say, "Hey, I played in Germany."
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like you're an international musician. People don't need to know whether you performed a concert or not, which is just like added bonus if you guys go do that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, they love acts from America over there, so
Yeah.
shouldn't be too hard to get a gig, especially with Tim being a real American. So
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Full-blooded, yeah.
Yeah. Hence the cheeseburger serving.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yep, absolutely.
Totally. Good for you. Way to go, American. Tell me a little bit about the style of music that you're playing, because it's new to the Porch, at least. Where did that start for the two of you, and give us a little bit about that.
I guess we've been in a bluegrass band for about 3 years, touring around doing a very sort of very standard type of music, and we'd always wanted to do something that was a little bit different even to us. So I guess, influences culminated into, sort of doing something that exactly what we wanted to do, regardless of whether or not anyone actually really liked it or it was going to catch on, So
That's
we're
right.
kind of just trying to do exactly what we want to do all the time now.
That is ambitious, and I support that fully.
Yeah.
I really like the sound. So when you guys are writing and doing that kind of stuff, what are you? This is such a bad question. I'm going to ask it anyway.
Do it, yeah. do it.
So what do you? What's your process? How are you getting into it? What are you thinking about? What kind of things are you looking for? Where do you get your inspiration?
Well, we both write and contribute material to the band, so I don't want to speak for Tim.
Mm-hmm.
But just personal experiences, anything that you feel strongly about,
Sure.
anything that you need to work out and understand a little better, you write a song about it, and then when you're done, you feel like you have better perspective on it, maybe. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so
I guess I like to take a sauna, eat a good meal,
Mm-hmm.
and generally I blame Bob Dylan's parents for a lot of it, but in general it's just really just letting everything kind of flow out naturally.
Nice.
as it will.
Yeah, and it does too. That's such a great explanation, because the music kind of just flows out. It has a really nice feel to it. It felt very fluid to me as I was listening earlier.
Thanks.
Yeah.
we like to go for an open feel,
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
not so much bass round rhythm. We tried to play with the drummer for a little while, and
Yeah.
we ended up just kind of parting ways. We want it
Sure.
to be a little more open, spacious.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely has that feel. What was the name of that first song that you guys played at the beginning?
That song was called "The Kids Come Home Stoned."
Oh, nice. Okay, so you have roots in central New York and obviously other places. And as you're taking this new sound of yours, you've moved on from the other band, you're taking this new sound, and you're writing, what are you going to do with all that? Are you going to record? Do you have a new album coming up? What's your plans for the near and for the distant future?
Yeah, we're working on an album right now. Hopefully we'll be done with it by the end of September. And we don't have a name for it yet, really. We just have a lot of songs, and we're going to kind of working a lot on arranging them.
Uh-huh.
And we hope to be getting back into the touring and, playing out regularly. So,
yeah.
And then we'll continue writing after that, So,
of course.
Yeah.
Cool. I think there was a lot of emphasis early on in beginning the project, sort of finding like a thread of continuity to weave between the songs. So if it was like a thematic, like a sonically thematic thing that was going on, that would be sort of carried throughout the entire album. So rather than having individual songs, you have like a full album that kind of flows as a piece of music. And so that's been really the focus, is just sort of getting the songs to the point where they feel like they belong all together.
Right. What a great idea. I like that. So you want to, why don't you hook us up with another song? Now, the next song you're going to be playing, is that going to be something a little bit newer that's going on your album, or what?
Well, I think all three of the songs that we're playing today will probably, is a good chance they'll end up on the album. And so, yeah, it's all pretty new, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Let's give another hand for Bold Folly, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks.
late at night. I did what you asked me. In the alleyway behind the bar. Late at night, I became a victim. I cut along the dotted Thank you. Gina's going to join us. Our good friend Gina's going to play some violin on this. Do a little tune called Whiskey Fists.
This is fun. Yeah. It's another stupid song, but it keeps somebody from getting bored. If you're a white dress walking through the birch stands, dragging all the names of your conquest through the snow. Writing letters on the backs of my candy raven, I'm singing, this ain't your old man's rock and roll. But the words were too small for your eyes, so I left on a Monday, 9:15.
Texas is what the whiskey is. I can still taste it on my lips.
So that was Bold Folly. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, absolutely. You can applaud again. It's okay. They were that good. And they had Gina Holsopple on the fiddle. We're going to bring Gina back up with her guitar and hear some of her stuff. Thanks for always being a part of the show.
Sure thing. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like the smell of spring in winter. You're something like a secret rendezvous.
It was August 3rd, 1990, when Justin Manuet and his wife bought a house in Tonkahogan. It was a used house. Used house. I don't know if we really talk about houses as being used, but this house had really been used. And everything that they left in the house had really been used as well, including the 1921 Andrews Model 1836 tractor. That tractor was bought in 1950 by the man that lived in the house before them. His name was Randall. And Randall bought this 1921 Andrews 1836 model tractor in hopes that he could fix it up and drive it around his farm. But there it sat, in the barn. In the barn he built specifically for the Andrews. And it sat there, and he worked on it, and he worked on it, and he'd take it apart, and he'd work on it. And every time he walked into the house at the end of the day, he'd always say, I'm so close. I'm so close. For years this happened. And his wife would go down to the barn, and she would ask him when he was coming to dinner. And he couldn't ever hear her when she walked into the barn because he was always humming. He was always humming that same song. Big smile on his face. And he was always so close. And the tractor never ran. So when Randall died, his wife couldn't bear to take the tractor out of the barn. It stayed in its spot. And whenever she showed the house, she was selling the house herself, and whenever she showed off the house, she'd walk into the barn, and she would catch herself humming that same song every time she walked into the barn. So when Justin and his wife Marion decided they'd take the house, Randall's wife was very excited. And there they made the deal. And she told him that she didn't really care what they did with the house. She gave them the history, but she knew that it was now theirs, and they could do whatever they wanted to with it. But she said, that tractor, if you ever take that tractor out of the barn, it has to be for one of two reasons. Because you got it running, and you're driving it around the farm, or because you've sold it to somebody that will get it running and drive it around their farm. So for the next 10 years, Justin would constantly be working on this Andrews tractor whenever he had a free moment. He'd never worked on tractors before, but he learned everything that he could. And it was a 1921 Andrews. They don't even make Andrews anymore. So he had to make parts. He had to find parts. And every day, he would walk into the house after working on the tractor. And he would turn to his wife and he would say, I'm so close. I'm so close. And this went on for years. And as it went on, things happened. You know, like life. They had kids. They had fights. They had money trouble. They had great money. They had family. They didn't have family. They had friends. They didn't have friends. It was constantly up and down like life is. And eventually, I'm so close became Justin's motto. That was his driving force. And he would be working a bolt on the tractor. He'd be trying to get it running. He'd be tapping the starter like he'd seen the old men do. You know, if you tap the starter motor, it's supposed to do something and get it running. And one day he found himself tapping the motor. He had a 3/8-inch wrench. And he just kept tapping and tapping and tapping in this rhythm. And pretty soon, he forgot he was tapping. And it was very hypnotic. It was like watching the stopwatch flow back and forth. And pretty soon he was back in other places. And he kept hearing himself saying, I'm so close. I'm so close. And he had visions of himself driving this tractor around the farm and saying, I'm so close. And he had visions of him walking into the house and his wife ignoring him because of something he had done or not done, something he had said or not said, something he'd forgotten, something he'd remembered too late. And he always found himself saying, I'm so close. Some days he was so close to leaving. Some days he was so close to his wife. Some days he was so close to having a relationship. But he never felt like he was there. And things were really good for a while between him and his wife. And she decided to take the kids into Tonkahogan for the festival. So they left. But he really felt like he was close. And the barn had filled with the fumes of gas from him pouring gas into the carburetor, pouring gas into the gas can, taking gas out of the carburetor, taking gas out of the gas can, just going back and forth. And he forgot. He didn't recognize that the barn was filling with fumes, and he was so close. And the battery was dead. So he took out the battery charger. And as he went to hook up the battery charger, he wasn't paying attention. And it was plugged in. And it sparked. And those fumes caught. And the barn started on fire. With Justin standing right there. With the clamps right next to the battery. Surrounded by flames. And he dropped on the floor. And he rolled across the floor of the barn. And he found his way to the barn door. And he crawled out. Just as his wife and the kids were pulling into the driveway. And he stood up, smoking, black, coughing. And there was a soda can, Dr. Pepper, his favorite, that he had tossed out of the barn the day before. And he tried to kick it. He said, I'm so close. And he tried to kick the can, and he missed the can. And again, he's like, I was so close. But miss every time. And as he called the fire department and explained to his wife what was happening, he just walked down and stood in front of the barn. And there was nothing he could do. That barn was built in 1950 for that tractor. That tractor was built in 1921 to be driven around this farm. But he was certain. He was certain that that hum that you talk about when an engine is running perfectly was coming from inside this inferno. Like that tractor had actually started. And he could hear the sirens in the distance. But above the flames, and above the kids yelling, and above the sirens that were getting closer, he thought he could hear Randall humming. And then he realized that what he could hear that tractor. Maybe it was the engine humming. Maybe it was Randall's ghost humming. But no matter what it was, Justin could just smile. Smile and watch. Because it was humming. This is my home. This is my only home. This is the only sacred ground that I have ever known. Should I stray in the dark night alone? Rock me, goddess, in the gentle arms of Eden. Rock me, goddess, in the gentle arms of Eden. As it always happens at this time, you've witnessed the end of another episode of On the Porch Radio Hour. I want to thank Bold Folly for being on the show. And even though she's gone, I want to thank Elizabeth, who sat on the double solid line in the middle of the street and did our sound check for us. Turn up the volume, Elizabeth. Turn up the volume. And I want to thank Greg Mills for being here. And I want to thank him for setting this up. And I want to thank him for doing the stuff that he does with the Chamber of Commerce. And I want to thank the Rivers End Bookstore and Bill Reilly. And of course, I want to thank Waldo. And I want to thank Carri Waloven and the Literacy Coalition for all the work they're doing. And I want to thank George DeMass and our regular guest, Jim Farfaglia. And I want to thank everybody that came to listen. And I want to thank all of the vendors here. If you can hear me, thank you for the hard work that you do. Thank you for growing the food and bringing it and letting us share your hard work. We really appreciate you and everything you're doing. And a farmer's market can only be a farmer's market if we have farmers. And this farmer's market has been here for a long time because of people like you. So thanks for your hard work. Thanks for listening to the show. We're going to be back in 3 weeks. We're going on vacation. So, you'll have to listen on the website to the archive shows. And then when we come back, we'll nail it. And remember, August 27th is a Thursday, and that's my birthday. And we're recording an awesome show in our barn for my birthday. So we'll see you around. And until then, peace to your journey.
On the Porch is a production of the Wooden Apple Farmstead with host and writer Matthew Wood. Our musical director and sound technician is Gina Holsopple. Our stage manager is Ray Monet. Special guests include George DeMass, Jim Farfaglia, Bill Reilly, Tim Drozdowski, and Ingo Hutzenlob of Bold Folly. Find information about past shows, being on the porch, and much more online at ontheporch.weebly.com.